Good afternoon, friends and family. Today we're going to be in Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 8. And before we get there, I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he was talking about how he had this joke that he wanted to tell me, and he just couldn't remember it. And then we continued on talking about how sometimes we hear a really funny joke, and then we go and we try to tell it, and we seem like we tell it the exact same way it was told to us, and then we try it, and then it's just not as funny. Or something happens where you think it's the funniest story ever, and then you go to try to tell the people the story of what happened and nobody laughs, or nobody gets your story, or something incredible happens in your life and you're just sitting there looking at it in awe, and you're just like, wow, this is really amazing. If I were to tell anybody about this, it wouldn't be fair to what I'm, being in this moment right now. Maybe it's a beautiful picture of a mountain and just that surreal feeling of being out there in the wilderness and looking at this mountain, and you just try to explain that to somebody and it doesn't hit home like the experience you actually had. Well, today, Peter, James, and John run into one of those types of situations. So let me get to the reading and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 8. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah and with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly they looked around, and they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. Now, the fun thing about this story for me is that obviously this is a crazy situation, and that Peter, James, and John are probably going to want to run home and go tell everybody what they saw, but nobody's really going to be able to truly understand what they saw. I mean, we can picture what happens here, and we can try to put ourselves in Peter and James and John's shoes, but we'll never be able to picture exactly what it was like for those 3 to see this take place. For Jesus to stand there and have a conversation with Elijah and Moses. To see Jesus clothed in white beyond our understanding of the color white. Just think about that for a second. White beyond what people have ever seen before. And so Jesus tells the Peter, James, and John later to not tell anybody. It's not that Jesus wanted them to hold this story to themselves. It's just that no one else was going to be able to process exactly what happened. And lucky for us, it was written down so we could read it and understand that this happened. But the key point for me is how important it was that Peter was one of those people. Peter, who basically is Jesus' best friend at this point, was picked as one of the 12 disciples. Only a quarter of them got to go. Just Peter, James, and John. And then, not only are they going to want to share that story, they're told not to, and they have to hold that secret. Today, folks, I know that there's times and places where you try to tell that joke, you try to explain how your vacation was so awesome, or this picture you were a part of was so great. But the beautiful thing is that we get to know the true story of Jesus Christ. We get to hold the truth that we know that Jesus Christ died, was raised from the dead 3 days later, and provided us salvation. We get to share that story. And there's truth to that story, the ultimate truth, that within our faith of Jesus Christ, we all can be saved. Go out, friends. Try to stay safe with this heat. Try to stay safe in this pandemic. And go out and share the gospel with those that you interact with. Amen.